good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Gripsed Poker Training. My name is Evan, and as per usual, I will be your instructor. Today's lesson is going to be on choosing the right game for you. So, what are the various types of games that we have in the poker world? We have tournament poker, which, if you've seen it on TV, would have been the World Poker Tour, European Poker Tour, or one of the spin-offs like the Latin America Poker Tour, Asian Pacific Poker Tour, North American Poker Tour, and the list goes on. There's also the most famous one, which is what got most of us into poker in the first place, with Chris Moneymaker and the glory days, the World Series of Poker. Next format is Sit-N-Go poker. The most popular one I've seen on TV is the Premier League poker, where they, have a league format and they play a bunch of matches, but each individual match is in the form of a sit-and-go. And the other show that did sit-and-goes was Poker After Dark, but I don't think they're around anymore. Finally, we have Cash Game poker, which is my favorite game, but is not my favorite game to watch. But high stakes poker is quite possibly the best poker show of all time, especially seasons kind of like 3 and 4 when they start to get the really big sharks in there. The Ivy, Durr, Antonius matches, those were epic. That new stuff they got, though, with those billionaires and that new announcer is just terrible, though. I can't bear to watch it. But the old stuff with Gabe Kaplan and that other dude, I don't remember his name. Gabe was the only big draw anyway, but they had some good banter. That was some really high-quality programming. Another cash game show is The Big Game. I believe it's a British show. They play in pounds. You get a lot of big-name pros coming on there, and they tend to do the broadcast over like 24 hours, so you actually get to see a lot of interesting hands. And the stakes aren't completely unreasonable. I think it starts out as a 25-50 game, bumps up to 50, 100, and 1-2, so it's something that, pros who have been playing for a couple of years could actually aspire on getting on that show, whereas high-stakes poker, it's like, well, if you don't have like 200K to put in play, then you got no shot of being on the show. Alright, so let's look a little bit more into multi-table tournaments. So what's appealing about multi-table tournaments? Let's ask the audience first and see what they say. Viewers, any opinions on what's appealing about multi-table tournaments? No? Alright, maybe you guys are cash game players then. Okay, we got one. Potential first place. Yeah. That lines up with my first point too. Yeah, the main draw about multi-table tournaments is the big score. It's the fact that you can win $1 million, $500,000, $10 million in the big tournaments, and online you still get really big payouts. You can parlay a $10 investment into like $4,000. You can parlay a $200 investment into $50,000, even like $200,000 if you're playing the right tournament. So you get really big payouts, and you turn a small amount of money into a lot. It's quite similar to playing the lottery with slightly better odds. But it's very good to be realistic that when you're playing in a tournament with 5,000, 10,000 people, the odds of you winning, even if you're a better player than most of your competition, still aren't that much better than like 4,000 to 1 in the 5K tournament and in the 10,000 person tournament. The odds of you winning are still like, at best 8 or 9,000 to 1. So it's very important to be realistic about that. That you are somewhat playing a lottery. Which is why I would encourage people to play multi-table tournaments more for fun than for professionalism. But whatever. There's also the rush of being victorious over countless opponents, and that's what our friend WHUFC said. That potential first place finish. For anyone who plays poker and plays some tournaments, they know that there's no better feeling than coming out on top in a multi-table tournament. It doesn't matter if the field is like 50 people versus 500 people. When you take first place, you just feel really fucking good about yourself. You beat everyone. You're the winner. You're the man. You're on top of the world. And like Isildur says, you stand alone. So it's a really cool feeling, and obviously the money you get's really nice too, but it's just that feeling of victory that you bested everyone and that you accomplished a task. It's really, really nice feeling. So for the rush, multi-table tournaments are great. And then coming back to the first point a bit, the ability to turn a very tiny investment into something huge is the big draw about tournaments. And thanks to the satellite system where you can play a tournament that qualifies you to another tournament, you can turn something real small like Chris Moneymaker did back in 04, I think, or 03. One of those two. It's so far back, it's tough to remember anymore. Anyway, the guy took $40, played a super satellite to the main event, so he won a seat to the final, and then he played that tournament and won a seat to the main event, and then he somehow won the main event, which is a crazy string of luck. And he turned $40 into over $2.5 million. So thanks to these satellite tournaments, where you can win a buy-in into a bigger tournament, you can turn something real small into something huge. Like I personally, my biggest score was in a 1K tournament, when at the time, if I were to register for a tournament with my own money, I probably wouldn't have played anything bigger than a $50. So I played a $5 rebuy qualifier to the 1K. Top 5 got seats. I finished in the top 5, and then I got 6th in the 1K for $20,000 from $15. And this is after I've been playing for like a year. And I wasn't very good back then, but my risk was very small. So even though I ended up playing a 1K tournament, since I was only in for $15, it was really easy for me to feel comfortable and not feel the pressure of playing a big buy-in tournament, which is a very important thing in multi-table tournaments. As soon as you care about the money, it's extremely tough to be successful. You have to have a no-fear, kind of laissez-faire attitude to be successful in tournaments. The reality about MTTs is that if you play them religiously, you're going to be locked on your computer like you're a World of Warcraft gamer. MTTs take between 4 and 8 hours if the field is anything more than like 50 people. It's very important to be in tune with that before you register for a tournament. If you have an hour or two of free time before you have to go out or do something, don't register for a multi-table tournament, because if you want to win, you have to be there for at least 4 hours. So what's going to happen if you do that is you're going to register, you're going to play, you're going to dick around. Let's say you have chips or you don't have chips leading into 2 hours. You're just going to dust them off because you got to go, and you probably can't find someone to take over for you. Also, it's against site policy to let someone else take over your tournament. You don't want to be violating the TOS. So recognize that the tournament grind is a long one, and that you should prepare for that. Don't have obligations coming. And also, a very important thing, plan out your food situation before you register for the tournament. There's nothing worse than being 5 hours into a tournament realizing you have no food, so you order pizza or some other sort of fast food, which is terrible for you when you're playing poker. Then when it gets there, you eat it, you feel like crap after, and you spew off the tournament because you're feeling heavy in your gut, your body's busy digesting, and you can't focus on the task at hand, which is playing the tournament. So plan out your eating before the tournament as well. Just have some snacks, have some water, nothing crazy, but acknowledge you're in for a long run and prepare for it. It's a very, very long grind, putting in hours waiting for the next score. Tournament players kind of live from score to score because they're going, all the money's in the top 3. So you're trying to get the top 3, and You know, when you don't get top 3, it's kind of like you failed on your mission. So you have to understand that there's going to be long periods of not cashing in tournaments, long periods of simply min cashing where you aren't really making any progress, and you're just waiting for that next big score, whether it's 2 days, whether it's a week, whether it's 2 months. It's a grind waiting for the next big score to come in, which is why, again, I don't think being a professional tournament player is the way to be a professional poker player. Some people would disagree. I have some friends who are very successful tournament players, but they'll play 30 tournaments a day so that the big score will come around more frequently. Most people can't afford that and don't have the folks to play that many tables. So it's a tough life being a multi-table tournament pro grinder. The luck factor is very high, and given that the best player rarely wins. To win a tournament, you generally need to hold in at least 4 coin flips. More often, it's going to be like 8, 10, 12 coin flips. And given that those are pure 50-50s, it doesn't matter how good you are. You have to be on the right side of luck that day. And all the big money is at the end, and the stacks get so shallow that it's just coin flips. So, you know, let's say first gets half the money, and second gets 30% of the money, which is not going to be the case except in a sit-and-go. Poor example, but whatever. And if you each have 10 big blinds, you're going to flip a coin for 20% of the entire prize pool, effectively. And that is very common. So, given that, you know, just acknowledge you're gambling. You're playing for the rush, and it's a tough way to be a pro, given that there's so much luck involved. Next, we're going to look at sit-and-goes, which is how I started playing poker, and where I honestly think everyone should start playing poker because they're just great. Sit-and-goes are fast, fun, and a very friendly environment. You aren't going to find a ton of grinders and professionals playing small-stakes sit-and-goes, so you're going to be playing with recreational players who are just trying to have fun, which, when you're trying to make money, is the kind of people you want to be playing with. Simple and plain. That's a fact. Sit-and-goes are a very simple format, which is easy to learn, which is what makes it a great starting point. Even at the deepest stage of a sit-and-go, you don't have 100 big blinds. You've got like 75, maybe 50. So it's not that hard to figure out how to play with 50 and 75 big blinds, which makes it an easier game to learn. And pretty quickly you're going to have 30 big blinds, 20 big blinds, 10 big blinds, 5 big blinds. The fewer big blinds you have, generally speaking, the easier it is to know what to do, and the less frequently you're going to make the wrong decision, because the game trees are very short, and it's just, okay, I got 2 cards. Do I want to go all in for 5 big blinds, or do I want to fold? There's no, what do I do if I bet the flop and get check raised? Because there just isn't enough depth for those situations to arise. So sit-and-goes are very simple format, easy to learn, which makes them a great starting point and a great way to just get comfortable with the idea of learning pre-flop plays, starting to understand position, and you get the gambling rush, which appeals to most people. Most people have a little bit of that bug in them. One of my favorite things about sit-and-goes, you know exactly how much you're going to wager to play, and that's all you can lose. If you're going to play a $5 sit-and-go, the most you're going to lose is $5.50. You can't get stacked 3 times and be in for $15. No, because when you get stacked, you're out. And you know exactly how much you stand to win. Generally, it's going to be 3.5 to 4 times the buy-in for first in a short-handed sit-and-go, 1.5 to 2 times for second. And in a 10-man sit-and-go, you can double your money, triple your money, or quintuple your money. Given that there are a lot of weak players playing small stakes sit-and-goes, you should be able to make it to the money a decent percentage of the time. Like, I'm honestly thinking you should be able to cash like 30% of the time. And if you're getting first any percentage of that time, you're going to be making a profit. So it's a really good way to start building the bankroll. Because if you can learn how to make it to the money, you're going to be adding to your bankroll pretty quickly. And then when you have enough binds, you just move to the next limit. The structure's the same. You're still going to be comfortable. You're going to know what you're doing. You're just going to be playing for slightly more stakes, so you'll still be comfortable. But you're going to speed the growth of your bankroll a lot faster. And given that you know what the exact risk is, it's easy to plan out your shots and all that so that you never dig yourself too big a hole. It's fairly tough to tilt in sit-and-goes. So it's a great way to build the bankroll while getting comfortable. And also, I think the easiest way to grow that roll is you find the limit you're comfortable with, and then once you're getting good at the game, then you just add another table. And then you do 2 tables for a bit, and when you're getting good at that, you add 3. And you can get up to 4 tables in not too long a time, given that the game is kind of simple and straightforward. And if you're 4-tabling sit-and-goes at a limit you're comfortable with and having a good cash rate, you're going to be growing your bankroll pretty quickly. That's how I did it, and I really think it's the best way to do it. Because you can't really get hurt playing sit-and-goes. It's easy to drop down levels. You're in full control. And, yeah, they're sweet. Sorry, someone in the chat told me a funny joke. Now the great thing about Sit-N-Gos is that they're often offered in satellite format so that you can win a ticket to a bigger tournament, similar to what I was saying for multi-table tournaments. And the required skill set for Sit-N-Gos is similar to that of multi-table tournaments, so should you win a ticket to a multi-table tournament from a Sit-N-Go, the transition isn't that difficult. Plus, you get some supplementary education from Grip's poker training, and you'll know exactly what you're doing when you have to play an MTT. But it's the great thing is the transition is not that difficult, so it's a really good starting place to start with Sit-N-Gos. Take the occasional shots to try to get in some MTTs, play some low stakes MTTs, and if you hit the big squirrel, now you have a bankroll that you can try the cash games with, because that's where the consistent money's made. We're going to get to that after I introduce the one reality about Sit-N-Gos, which for the most part will not affect you guys. The game is relatively solved at higher limits, given that there aren't that many variables in play. But given that by the time you have a big enough bankroll to play higher limit Sit-N-Gos, you'll probably have already delved out into either cash games or multi-table tournaments, you don't really need to worry about this. The good news about that is if you're kind of a math guy, Nash equilibrium, that type of person, game theory, whatever, you can learn the kind of solvable system of sit-and-goes and get up to the big games pretty fast and make your 1% ROI or whatever it is. And big buy and sit-and-goes, $500, $1,000. I mean, you can pump them out pretty fast, so could make some decent money winning at 1%. Anyway, 1% doesn't interest me, but for some people, it's cool. Alright, cash games. I don't know if it's your game, but it's definitely my game. And it is, in my opinion, also the game. What's appealing about them? The question is, what's not appealing about them? Nothing. You set your own hours. You quit whenever you want. You say, okay, I want to play poker for a bit. Sit down, fire up some tables, session. And I'm not really feeling it anymore. Quit. Oh, my buddy just called me. Wants to chill. All right, quit. I'm on Raging Tilt. Insta quit. You know, you can step in, step away. It's fantastic. You're never locked in. You want to play for 5 minutes. You want to play for 500 minutes. You can do that with cash games. You also get the ability to game select. If you want to play full ring tables, you go find the 10-handed tables. You want to play short-handed, they're there. Heads up, they're there, live. It's all there. Whatever you want to play, you can play. And not only do you get to decide how many players you want at the table, you get to pick your limits. You know, you go to a casino, you can play 1-2. You can play 2-5, you can play 5-10, you can play 10-20. Whatever you're feeling that day, whatever you have a big enough bankroll for, you can play. So no matter what stage you are at in your poker career, There's always a game that's offered for you in the cash game arena, and that's one thing that just makes them fantastic. And when you're crushing the lower limit, it's pretty easy to take a shot at the bigger limit. If you're at the casino, it's right across the room, and if you're at home, well, you just scroll down the lobby. It's just a fantastic way to grow. But you better be practicing good bankroll management, because if you're doing that whole, every time I double up, I'm going to move to higher limits, you're going to go broke, 100% of the time? Maybe it's like 99.5% of the time. It's definitely up there. Deep stack play, which is 100 big blind poker or more, 200 big blind, 300 big blind, is the most transferable skill to other forms of poker, which means if you become an expert cash game player, you're going to be a great tournament player. You're going to be a great sit-and-go player. I'm not going to say expert, because there are some, little nuances that are different in each game, but a great cash game player is way more likely to be a good tournament player than vice versa. Someone who's great at tournaments, it's going to be hard for them to be good at cash games because they're used to playing with 10 and 20 big blinds where the decisions are very simple. Cash game poker is real poker. You go through big game trees, lots of decisions, lots of different pressure points, tons of variables. You get better at processing information, which is what the game is about, which is why if you're good at cash games, you're going to be fine in the other arenas as well. The best news about cash games is that hard work and practicing good habits pay off. If you are consistently playing better than your opponents, making fewer mistakes than your opponents, and playing within your bankroll, you're going to be making money. Because even if you're running bad, you can't run bad forever, and everyone else is going to have periods where they're running bad. So as long as you're playing better than the other guys, you're going to see some results from it. It's just that simple. And cash games, the fact that you can multi-table, the fact that you can play a ton of hands at the same limits, you get closer to reaching that long run where the luck has balanced out and whoever is playing better and making fewer mistakes is the one who's making the money and achieves their expected value. And so in cash games, if you practice good habits, you work hard, you're going to get results. Now, you have to admit when you are making mistakes, not blame everything on bad luck, which a lot of people do, and not play in environments where you're not one of the top players. But that is practicing good habits. So if you really follow that statement, it's going to come true. There's another thing I didn't put up there. I don't know why, but another great thing about cash games is you get rewards for playing. Every site has their loyalty programs. So if you play 500 hands, you get in the monthly free roll. And the monthly free roll on some sites will be $1,000, on some sites will be $5,000, on some sites will be $25,000. And that's just free value that you're getting because you put in time at the tables. It's a lot easier to put in enough hands to acquire the rewards by playing cash games than it is playing the other formats, Sit-N-Gos and MTTs. There are also sites that will, give you points for your play, and it's way easier to get those points playing cash games than you could buy. You can buy clothes, you can buy movies, electronics. Sometimes you can even buy cash with those points. So just simply for playing, you're going to get rewards. And so it's just, you can put in the hours playing cash games, playing a limit that you're comfortable at, that one that you can beat, and you're going to get paid. So once again, that hard work will be paying off. The realities, okay, big one, number one, because everyone watches poker on TV and they say, well, I could do that. I could be the guy who wins the World Series. I want to make $1 million playing poker. Why the fuck not? If he did it, why not me? It's important to be realistic at this game. And we talked about that in the previous lesson, that it's a long-term thing. In cash games, it's very difficult to win $1 million because you got to be one of the best. You got to be willing to take shots, and when you take shots, you have to run good. Um, a lot of guys who we never hear about took a shot at high stakes and were great players, but they ran bad, so they went broke. The guys you do hear about, um, Tom Dwan, David Benefield, who else is an online player that transitioned? I mean, I guess Patrick kind of is. Phil Galfond. Those guys, they worked really hard, and they had periods where at least Durr had periods where he went busto as well. But like Phil Galfond admittedly said, when he would take shots at the big games, he would run really good. And, he wasn't necessarily a ton better than his opponents, but he was running hot when it mattered, and that's what allowed him to win millions of dollars. Now, if your goals are realistic and reasonable, and you're looking to make a few hundred extra bucks a week or a month to start, and then eventually 1,000, you take it step by step by step, you might not win $1 million, but over the course of a few years, you can definitely win tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. As long as you're following those good habits and not taking shots to try to force those winnings before you're really due for them or ready for them, you'll be fine. You might not win $1 million, but who cares? What is $1 million anyway? What are you going to buy with $1 million that you can't buy with $700,000? What are you going to need $1 million for when you're 19 years old anyway? To buy entertainment that you couldn't get with like a few $1,000s, If you have an extra few $1,000 than your buddy, you can kill it at the bar, and when you're like 19, 20, 21, isn't that the main thing you want to be doing? So, just get your priorities straight and don't have these crazy, unrealistic expectations. Because if you put in the hard work, the rewards will come. And if you win $1 million, cool. If you don't, no big deal. Don't put the pressure on yourself to be like, well, I'm going to play poker, and unless I win $1 million, I failed at it. That's stupid. So, yeah. I used to want to win $1 million, and then I realized, well, I live comfortably. I'm happy. I can do everything I want to do day in, day out. So what do I need $1 million for? Nothing. I don't need it. And since I dropped that ridiculous goal, I've been much happier, and I've also been able to play a lot better. And I've seen improvements in my results strictly just from dropping the crazy goal of just I want to win $1 million. It doesn't mean anything. The other big thing in cash games is tilt. Tilt will bust you. Boom. Game over. Tilt is very expensive. Problem with cash games, more so online than live, is that it's really easy to just jump stakes, play a bigger game. You're losing at 1-2, okay, I'm going to go play 2-4. Okay, I'm running bad at 2-4, I'm going to go play 5-10. I'm going to go play 10-20. And eventually all your money's in play. And when you have one bullet at the game, and you're at the complete mercy of luck, it's pretty easy to get busted. Some sites offer the ability to ban yourself from higher limits, which is very helpful for that kind of stuff. Just recognize that when you're tilting, the last thing you should be doing is moving up limits. If you don't have it in you to quit playing, you should be moving down limits. Because if you try to move up limits when you tilt, you're like guaranteed to bust your roll. And even if you get lucky and double up at the higher stake so that you're like out of the hole, there's a good chance you won't acknowledge that means it's time to quit, and you will keep playing until you eventually lose it all. So you're just kind of creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where, at the start of the session you didn't set out to go broke, but now that you're tilting, you're pretty much doing whatever you can to make yourself go broke, even though you don't think you're doing that. That's exactly what you're doing when you're jumping limits and just trying to force the action. True. We're already at 30 minutes, so I'm going to go straight to the question and answer. Just watch out for tilt. We're going to do an entire lesson on tilt because it's like the most detrimental thing in poker, and it's not that hard to avoid, actually. You just need to have the right strategies and techniques. So the first question people might ask is what game they should play. And since I believe that you're going to have the best results when you're having fun, play the one that gives you the most satisfaction. Don't worry about the one that has the most money involved. You don't want to be one of the many unhappy guys in the world of gambling because they're doing something they don't really love. You want to be the happy guy who's found his game that he likes. And if that's 1-2 no limit at the casino, when there's tons of bigger games, who cares? That's cool. If you're having fun and you're making money, then you're having a good quality of life, and that's what life's all about. It's getting enjoyment. It's not about being the richest guy or the best person at whatever you do. It's about getting happiness and value from your time. Not financial value, life value. Okay. So that was the only question I have a quick answer to. Now I will take questions from the audience. Hopefully I will have the answers for theirs as well. So does anyone have any questions about various forms of poker? How do you solve rage quit tilt? Okay, well, rage quit is usually caused by the fact that you started tilting, you started playing bad. You know that you were playing bad, but you're like, okay, I'm going to keep playing because I can get through this and I can get out and I can play good. And you tell yourself, I'm not going to tilt anymore, I'm going to play good, but it's not going to happen. You're still going to be playing bad because once you start tilting, like, it's just really hard to get back on your A game. And then eventually you'll just, you'll play semi-solid again and you'll do one thing that's really stupid. And then you'll instantly quit because you're like, man, that was completely retarded. Why the fuck did I do that? I'm an idiot. Rage quit. Done. Close all the tables. Close the software. Fine. To avoid the rage quit tilt, you just stop playing earlier when you recognize that you're tilting. You see yourself make one kind of fringe decision. Say, okay, I'm not playing my A game anymore. I'm going to stop. So as soon as you hit the B game, you say, whatever. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll come back in a couple hours when I'm back on my A game. As opposed to letting yourself play the B game for a while, possibly even the C game, and when you do a move that is representative of your T game for tilt, you insta-quit because all the frustration is compounded. So you just quit earlier, and then you won't get so hard on yourself and get so emotional. As soon as you start to feel the emotions get involved, stop, chill out, and you won't get so heated. And the issue with that is that you don't get enough volume in. Well, it sounds like you're a pretty fast tilter then, because you should definitely be able to get in 500,000, 2,000 hands before you tilt. If that's the problem, instead of doing, trying to do a 4-hour session or an 8-hour session, try to do an hour and a half. Stop, do something else, try to do another hour and a half, stop, and do another hour and a half. Now you've still gotten 4.5 hours in of playing that day, but it's high quality play, and you're probably going to be on your A game for most of it because you're doing short sessions where you're focused on the task at hand, and you're not drifting off, letting yourself get distracted. I personally will never play more than 2 hours because I know that after the 2-hour mark, my concentration starts to drop off. And when you're putting in time at the tables, you want to be putting in your best time because you don't want to be wasting your time. So try playing shorter sessions and multiple sessions a day instead of trying to grind out those long sessions. See how that goes for you. Okay, next question. Do I think that mass multi-tabling the micros is plus EV due to automatic decisions rather than for tabling a higher stake? I think if you are playing a strong game and are using a tracking program, because if you're multi-tabling, you need to have those statistics. You need to know your players' tendencies. Then it's better to just pump up the volume and just go crazy. A lot of people are making poor decisions and giving their money away. And a heads-up display is going to help you identify those players, so you don't need to be watching the table to find them. As long as you know who they are, you know where the money's coming from, and you know who to focus on playing hands against. You also are going to make more off the loyalty programs, and you're going to accumulate more points by playing mass tables. Now, the important thing is you have to be playing a solid variation of poker when you're going to be mass tabling. 'Cause if you're not playing fundamentally strong and you're making lots of mistakes, well, the more tables you play, you're going to be compounding those mistakes and making them more frequently. So it's very important to have identified what leaks you had and eliminating them before you go to play a ton of tables. Also, if you're going to play a ton of tables, play tighter, play fewer hands on each table, because to play loose you need to focus on all the factors going into the hand and have time to think about hands. When you're playing 12 tables or more, you only get a couple seconds for each hand, so you want your decisions to be as simple as possible. This means don't call to speculate as much pre-flop, because that's that starts a game tree that has more variables than if you are a pre-flop raiser and you have control of the pot. Generally speaking, if you're going to be multi-tabling, you want to use what I call the grips triple threat, which is position, aggression, selection. Every hand you play, you'd like to have position. You definitely want to have the aggression in the hand. And selection, you want to have some sort of a good hand for whatever situation you're in. If you don't have at least two of these three, you shouldn't be playing the hand. And the more tables you're playing, the more important it is to have all three every time you enter a pot. Yeah, it makes you more predictable, but given the fact that most people at micro stakes are playing really bad, or they aren't using a heads-up display so they don't see how you're playing, it doesn't matter. If you're just playing a strong style that your average idiot isn't going to know how to beat, you're going to make money. And, well, if they're an average idiot for a reason, they're not going to figure out how to solve you. They're just going to keep playing their game, which is worse than your game, which means overall you're going to be winning money from them rather than vice versa. The micros aren't necessarily that bad as a whole, but there are a lot of bad players playing the micros, so if you are game selecting well, you can find those players and take their money. Whereas if you're just loading up whatever tables are available, you might end up on a lot of tables with a lot of grinders, which is not the profitable situation you want to be in. Now, when you want to play fewer tables, then you can experiment with a looser style. And anytime you are trying to improve your game and try new things, that's when you want to drop the volume of tables so you can think about each decision. Then once you become comfortable with all that stuff, you can load up the volume again. So anytime you're going to try to play bigger or try to play different than you normally do, drop the amount of tables down crazy to like 1, 2, or 3, 4 maximum, because your brain can't process enough when you're playing more than that many tables while trying to do new concepts. And the main reason that I'm really big on mass tabling at the lower limits is the fact that the rewards from the site are going to contribute so much to your bankroll relative to winning stacks at limits like 5NL, 10NL, 20NL, that you just kind of want to put in the volume so that you can get in those tournaments, those free rolls that are going to give you a chance to win like 30 buy-ins for the limit and only have 100 entrants and everyone's terrible. When you're playing the lower limits, you want to get as much out of whatever rewards the site offers as possible, because those rewards are designed to help you build your bankroll. Once you get to the higher limits, it becomes more about playing as good as you can and winning money from your opponents, and less about the rewards offered from the site. But you got to take advantage of what's out there. People who ignore the rewards just don't progress as quickly as they could. It doesn't mean that they're going to take forever to progress, but they're missing out on a lot of value. You want to take advantage. If someone's trying to give you something for free, you want to take it and take advantage of it, because if you don't, someone else will, and that person's going to move up faster than you will. Okay. The third and final question for the lecture, since we're getting to be quite long here, is that on full ring tables, Joe doesn't really look for fish because he doesn't think they play full ring. Fish play everything. And given how many tables there are on micro stakes at big sites, I guarantee you there are fish, and there will be tables that are 5 times better than other tables. You should basically... Okay, here's my best piece of advice that I can give you guys, because it makes it the easiest way to game select and the easiest way to find the easy money and go after it. Whatever poker site you play on, take advantage of the color coding and labeling system, because when you label a player on the table, you can then see in the lobby when you're looking at the table what color of players are playing on that table. So if you label all the regulars one color and all the really good players another color and all the fish a third color, we'll call it purple, then when you're going through the lobby, all you have to do is look for the purple and get on the games that have purple players rather than red and yellow. Makes it a lot easier to game select, instead of you're looking through the names and being like, okay, I know he's a pro, he's a pro, he's a fish. Okay, I'll go on this one. You just want to lower the time you spend game selecting and make it an easier task. Because when it's a daunting task, people say, whatever, fuck it, I'm not going to bother with it, it's too much work. If you put in the work to just label who's bad, and who, like, if you find a really big fish, give him a different color completely, like baby blue. And then when you see a baby blue on the table, you be like, fuck yeah, I'm getting on that game no matter what, because I know that that guy just gives it away like it's going out of style. A fish is anyone who plays an exploitable style. So unless they're playing 1917, 11-9, 14-12, something like that, then they are some sort of a fish. So if you have your players labeled, then it's really easy when you scroll through the lobby to see which games are good and which ones are bad. And I have a video about this on grips.com. It's called Playing the Player, I believe. And there I break down what every player type is, how to label them, and then how to find them. And once you have your players labeled, it's very easy. When you scroll through the lobby, you see a table that's all yellow and red, don't touch it. When you see a table that has some purple, some pink, some blue, hop right on. Because when there are 100 games to choose from, I guarantee you that you can find 8 to 12 incredibly good games. And I don't think there are that many people out there who are playing more than 8 to 12 tables. So just do your due diligence. Find the bad players and play with them. Because yeah, overall, poker players are getting better and the games are getting tougher, but the bad players still exist, and as long as you find them, there's still a ton of easy money and dead money out there up for grabs. Okay, with that, I am going to close the lesson down. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you